nasty. Bear with me this week, folks, as you can probably tell by my voice. Bit of a cold. Gotta love this time of year. Gotta love having small kids in school and daycares. But that's okay. We'll power through. I am your host, John Easthope of the Red Mile Rundown. And alongside me, as always, the man who's going to probably do most of the podcasting today, Mr. Robert Munich. How are you, Robert?
Well, obviously, I'm doing better than you. You've woken up with quite the cold here. So, things are going pretty solid here. But there are some existential Flames conversations that I think we're going to have today that'll kind of sum up how we're feeling about the team right now.
For sure, your Twitter was popping this week, as always. Lots to get into around the Flames. Real quick here, Robert. They started this 5-game road trip. It got off to probably the worst start in the history of road trips. It was not very good. They pulled out a win against Pittsburgh on a Saturday afternoon game. What'd you make of the start of the road trip and how the Flames have looked thus far?
Yeah, I mean, the Montreal and Boston games were really tough to watch. I mean, the 4 games prior to that, Nashville, a 4-3 loss, Seattle 5-1, Montreal 4-1, Boston 4-1. Those games were hard to watch. The Flames look like the October version of themselves, which is absolutely not a compliment to them. It's just they in those games specifically, it looks like they weren't playing Calgary Flames hockey. They were not connected. Just things were not going their way. Just passes were not connecting. The connection between players was just totally off for some reason, and that's going to happen, a few times throughout the regular season over an 82 game schedule. So I'm not overly worried about it, but I will say, I mean, those games were really boring. They were really hard to watch. The Flames didn't have their feet. Like I said, they weren't connected. Those games were tough, and luckily on Saturday they played a little bit better. That was more Calgary Flames hockey. That was low event Ryan Huska hockey at its finest. So it looks like they're kind of getting back to what they've been doing. But yeah, it was tough to watch, to be completely honest about that. I don't know if you feel the same way.
I do, and even that Pittsburgh game, I'm not overly inspired because I thought Pittsburgh was quite off in their game. They came in winning 6 in a row into that game, and they were really sharp and they played some really good hockey. And then Saturday, I thought the Flames caught them off guard a little bit. Like the Penguins try to outmuck the Flames, which is kind of what the Flames kind of want teams to do. And so they got away with that one, I think, on Saturday as well, because allowing Crosby and Co. to only get 1 goal is quite the feat. I thought Devin Cooley was tremendous on Saturday for the Flames. Let's jump into the topic that everyone loves this time of year, regardless of the fan base. But teams that are trying to trade away or have trade chips, they tend to have these conversations a little bit more than other teams. And of course, we're talking trade talk here. Let's just jump through this roster a little bit, Robert, because there might be more trade. Everyone's talking about Anderson being traded or Coleman. There's Kadri talk out there. But I think there's more out there for the Flames on the trade market. What about yourself here before we jump into the roster?
I think so too. Like I know all the conversation this year has been based around Nazem Kadri, Rasmus Anderson, Blake Coleman, as it should be. I mean, those guys should absolutely be on the trade block 100%. At the same time, though, I'm almost thinking that there should be some other players too that the Flames should be making at least available. Like at least shop them, have some conversations, kind of see what you could potentially get for some of these guys. And I'll start with one in Joel Farabee.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he is a prime candidate to be moved. The one thing getting in the way, obviously, is his contract. He makes $5 million over the next 2 years, which is a pretty big ticket for a guy that's going to put up between 30 to 40 points and play probably on a third line on most good teams. So, I mean, that is asking a lot, but he has had a pretty decent season here. He scored 10 goals, 19 points in 45 games. So there's one there. Another guy I'll throw out there too is Morgan Frost. Things have not, in my opinion, worked out between Frost and the Flames. I don't think he's given the Flames what they had hoped. He certainly shows it in flashes, and basically like when the Flames made the trade that night, I remember posting on Flyers Reddit asking the fans, like what can Flames fans expect from Farabee and Frost? And basically we've gotten exactly what they've said, particularly when it comes to Frost. I remember Flyer fans saying, this guy is going to drive you nuts because he is super talented. He's got a great set of hands. He's got good vision. He can score the odd nice goal, but my goodness, is he inconsistent. And that was the one thing they kept coming back to, was inconsistency. And I think we've seen exactly that this year from Morgan Frost. We've seen at times he's been really good. And, over the last, I'd call it probably 15, 20 games here, he's really struggled to make an impact. So if there's a team out there that they're looking for, an inexpensive third line center, maybe that's another option too the Flames can look at. But the big thing for me is that just the Flames cannot just sit on their hands. They have to be proactive with a lot of these guys. And, a perfect example that would be shopping a guy like Farabee and Frost. Do I think it's going to happen? No, because this team never does anything proactive. But those are two guys I would absolutely look to be shipping out of here, because I do not see them as part of the long-term future of the team. I'd be curious to get your thoughts on those two guys, and if there's a couple others too that you think that should be on the move.
Yeah, I got two guys as well. I'll get to those in a sec here. Just to react to your Farabee. I think Farabee is a really good one. I think he is a guy that you would swallow the money on, just because the term's not outlandish left on that contract to make it more palatable, say for a Carolina or, I don't know, the New Jersey Devils, someone who's looking for a little bit more scoring punch to add to their lineup, a little bit of depth to their lineup. And I think Joel Farabee can provide that. I think he's more consistent than Frost has been. And you've seen Farabee excel with the quote unquote the high end skill the Flames have to offer the Cadres and so on. So I think that he's a really good trade chip to have. And a little bit of cost control. Some teams might be looking for that. Teams like Dallas, who are up against the cap for a couple of seasons here, just trying to make their cap work. They might be more inclined to make those type of trades, or maybe a Los Angeles Kings type of trade. Frost is one of those players that what you love about him is also what frustrates you about him. You nailed it right there, Robert, when you were talking about what the Flyer fans were saying. The inconsistency is so maddening, because when you see him, when he's playing at the top of his game, he's incredible. He's a really good number 2 center in this league, and he should be able to play that. Just you don't have that consistently. So I like him as a trade chip. I just don't know how likely it is that someone comes along and forks up anything of real value for him. The Flames do have him under contract again next year, so maybe he becomes a 2026-27 season trade chip, but his name should definitely be out there. The Flames, if they get an offer of a mid-round pick for the guy, I don't think they should be saying, well, no. Right, he should be on the table, and you should be having those conversations, absolutely, for sure.
One thing I'll add to the mix there is, I it's not even just contenders that could acquire guys like Frost and Farabee. I also think teams that are trying to get to the salary cap floor, teams that are in transition, that are looking to add NHL bodies and NHL skill for their teams. A perfect example is Chicago. Another example could be like a San Jose or maybe Seattle. Boy, do Frost and Farabee sound like Seattle Kraken. Those guys are like the perfect fit for that team. So it's not even that just if you're a contender looking to win a cup that you're going to be interested in these guys. I actually think there could be some interest for teams that are just looking to add NHL bodies while they're retooling or rebuilding as well.
I wonder how Farabee on Long Island would look with the Islanders.
He is a perfect Islander. Islander.
I like that from you. That's really good. Really good point there. I think two other players that fit somewhat in that same category as Frost and Farabee, both defensemen. With the amount of defensemen the Flames are trying to graduate from the American Hockey League, and the way we've seen Kuznetsov perform, Prostevich perform, what we're hoping Parekh can do in the back half of the season here. I wonder how likely it is do we see a guy like Joe Hanley or Braden Pahal move. Both are obviously depth defensemen on contending teams. Both obviously bring just a steady third pair presence, guys who could be a seventh maybe for a team that's loaded up, and guys that they don't fit the long-term goal or future of the Calgary Flames. These are guys that help you get from point A to point B, and if you don't need them, then move on from them. So I don't think you need to actively shop these guys around, because teams will call about Hanley. He's just that steady third pair guy. You can play with a young player. What Pahal's been doing the last few games, he's been scratched a lot this year, but in his opportunities, we saw that massive hit he threw against Chinnikov against the Penguins. The things that he brings to the lineup could be very valuable to an Avalanche team or someone who's looking for a little bit more grit on the back end. And so I think those two guys, and both have very palatable contracts, right? Yeah, they both got extended by the Flames, but those are contracts that are movable, in my opinion, and both guys that I think would fetch fetch something on the market. I don't think you're going to get a ton for these guys, but a Hanley, what if you get a fifth round pick for Hanley? Well, you're just getting a lottery ticket, right? And you want your young kids to play more. So I think those two guys are primed to be moved.
Yeah, especially Hanley. And he's having another really solid season. His contract is very palatable for a lot of teams. He makes less than $2 million, only has 1 year left. And he's one of those guys that you can just plug and play into your third pairing and really not have to worry about him. I think Hanley's a really smart player. By all accounts, he sounds like a fantastic person to have in the locker room. And he's a solid defensive player. Like I said, he's a smart guy. He's according to Ryan Huska, he's always in the right position. He's an easy person to play with. So I don't think it's that crazy to think like the Flames could get maybe a fourth round pick or something like that for him. And with the way that they've been drafting in later rounds, those lottery tickets are important.
Mm-hmm.
And there's might be an argument that, hey, we want to keep Hanley around to help grow a guy like Parekh or Brustevich or something like that. But like at this point in time, you have to start moving some of these guys. The Flames are in a position right now where I think they are so far away from being a contender. Like the more I think about that, the more I'm coming to the realization that they are so far away from being anything. And the only way to get back to that sort of contender status is by adding high-end skill and young players to your roster that can make a difference. And, they've started it, but they got to take it to another level here. And, you look at like Ethan Wittenbach, either he was a fourth or fifth round pick, but like that's a prime example of a later round pick that you've hit a home run on. So moving out guys like Hanley and getting those draft picks is very important.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't get the whole we have to have a million veterans around to help these kids.
I hate that so much.
So like I know we're getting a little bit off topic here, but one thing I've been thinking of a little bit lately is, okay, so it's so important to have these veterans around. Like it's critical to the culture of your team, according to the Flames. How are their young players doing this year? Connor Zary's he's started to pick it up over the last 11, 12 games here, but overall he's had a really rough year. Matt Coronado is on pace to get like 20 goals. There are times when he looks good, there's times when he doesn't, but I wouldn't say he's having a banner year by any stretch. Dustin Wolf's under 900 in his save percentage. Yan Kuznetsov has come in and played well, but Zyane Parekh has struggled. Hunter Brustevich is now being healthy scratched. So, like, you look at all these guys, all these quote-unquote young players, Rory Cairns didn't get a chance. Sam Morton didn't get a chance. Stromgren's not getting a chance. Like, are the veteran guys helping all these young players this season? That's the thing the Flames are just completely building this retool around, is having vets and having young players. Well, is it really helping?
Mm-hmm.
Are the young guys, are they improving that much? Are these veterans being around really helping them that much? I look at Chicago, and people were dunking on them. They don't have enough veterans. Young players are getting crushed. Well, Connor Bedard and Frank Nazar look pretty damn good this year.
Yes.
In San Jose, Will Smith at Macklin celebrating. There's not enough talent around them. They're gonna be in a losing culture forever. They look pretty damn good this year. Like, I think this whole veteran thing, yes, it's important to have some of them around, but to the extent that the Flames are pushing this narrative, I think is blown way out of proportion. And I think we're seeing that with some of the young players' development right now.
You don't need 7. Like, that's what boggles my mind. They talk about the 6th and the 7th guy with Yadel and Lomberg as well, and how big of a leaders these guys are. And we'll get into that a little bit later in the podcast. They're actually not playing that great, and then therefore their play is reflected on their teammates' play, and you're not getting the most out of your young kids, like to your point, Robert. So you don't need 7 of them. So we talk about trading these veterans out. You need 1 or 2. You don't need 1,000 of them. Like, you go back to San Jose, Tyler Toffoli is the veteran in the top 6. The rest of those guys are all kids. You go to Chicago, and it's Tyler Bertuzzi and a bunch of kids. Like, you need a couple of good veterans around your roster. Yes, they're valuable. Their experience is valuable. So the Flames could get by with a Backlund and a Uyghur and maybe one other guy. They don't need Kadri and Huberdeau and Hanley and Pahal and this guy. They don't need that. You're just having a veteran group. That's all you have. And then you have this big clip to your kids, and to your point there, Robert, it's not helping anybody, I don't think. So get a couple of leaders in here, establish that leadership group, absolutely. But at the same time, some of them just become dead weight at the end of the day, and that's why we have these trade conversations.
Yeah, could not agree more with you there.
I got two names I want to throw at you here, Robert, and how intriguing they could be on the trade bait list or the trade target list, however you want to word it there. Guys that are really liked around the Flames organization. You go online, and these guys are getting a ton of praise. So I want to start off with Ryan Lomberg. What is your appetite for Ryan Lomberg on the Flames long-term, short-term here? Is he a guy the Flames should be shopping, or is this guy you need these vibes?
Yeah, I'm going to be probably in the minority on this one. I just went on that long rant about how they don't need all those veterans around, but I do think you need some for sure, like you just said. And I do think Ryan Lomberg is one of those guys that you want to keep around. I really believe, like I just mentioned, I think this team is very far away from making the playoffs again. And there's going to be, potentially 3 to 5 really dark years coming up, kind of similar to what we've seen this year. And I do think that you do need some positivity. You do need some glue guys, some culture guys who bring the energy, who bring some fun to the rink. And Ryan Lomberg might be the best example of that in the NHL. And if I were the Flames, he's a guy I would bring back. I would try to re-sign him basically to the same contract he has now. Maybe a 2-year deal where he's making $2 million or maybe a little bit less than $2 million, and just have him there for the vibes, because like I said, I really think that the more I think about it, the more I think it's going to be a rough, let's call it 3 or 4 years. And you do need guys to bring the energy, and you do need guys to make it fun to come to the rink. You can't just be miserable for the next 3 years. So I actually think he's a pretty important piece from a culture perspective. And you don't have to play him every single game. They haven't played him every game this year, and that's totally fine. But just to have him in that dressing room, I do think is important. So like I said, I might be in the minority in this one. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on Lomberg.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised at the answer from you, Robert, but I like the reasoning behind it. And so for that reasoning, I think I'm on depends on the offer type of guy. So if you're gonna have a team come out and blow your socks off, hey, we're gonna give you a 3rd round pick for Ryan Lomberg, well, run to the table and take the 3rd round pick. At the same time, if this is a guy that sticks around this team, you like him for the vibes and for the off ice stuff. His play is whatever. He's going to play his 8-9 minutes, and there'll be high energy minutes, and you like that too. So the work ethic will be there, and you like that for your younger players. So I'm at the point where if he's traded, fine. It's just Ryan Lomberg. He's a 4th liner, and if he stays, it's fine. He's Ryan Lomberg. He's a 4th liner, but he'll add those vibes and that leadership to your organization. So I like that from you, Robert. That's really good reasoning. You kind of changed my answer a little bit, but because I was on trade Ryan Lomberg. But if you're gonna keep a veteran around, this might not be the worst guy to keep around.
Yeah, man, and you're right. If they get an offer like a 2nd or 3rd round pick, then yeah, you have to seriously consider moving him. I don't know if that's going to happen. I can't imagine there's a cup contender out there looking to bring in Lomberg for that type of price. So I almost think he brings more value to the team than a 5th round pick.
Fair.
I mentioned earlier about Hanley. If you can get a 4th or 5th like that, that's fine because you already have a bunch of veterans. And like I said, you still want to keep some around. You still want to keep 4 or 5, maybe 6 of them around. And in my opinion, I lump Lomberg in that group because, if they were about to break out and become a playoff team, like a legit cup contender, a legit playoff team, then sure, move out Ryan Lomberg and maybe give his spot to somebody else. But because they're going to be so bad over the next few years here, I do think it's important to have those types of guys around. So.
And there's no one that's taking that job, right? We saw Beecher was only okay at times. Adam Klapka is probably above that spot in the lineup. Dryden Hunt's probably a parallel move to that. So it's like you don't have anyone who's going to take that spot from Ryan Lomberg either, fill that spot, unless you're rethinking how you use your 4th line. So I think he's fine in that role. The other name on there, and I've seen this on Twitter. This is the only reason I'm bringing up because this guy for me is a straight no. I'm not trading this guy because you need him based on what you have in the position and what's behind him. Devin Cooley, for some reason, is getting a lot of buzz on my social media of, hey, what can the Flames get for Devin Cooley? Because he's had a really good season. I'm like, yes, Also, we just saw a stretch of Dustin Wolf getting overplayed, and that's what we'd get if you traded Devin Cooley. So where are you at here with the Devin Cooley conversation?
Yeah, prior to the contract extension, I thought it was a very real conversation. But now that they've signed him to a 2-year deal, then I think he's kind of off the table here. Unless you get a crazy offer for him, then sure, move him. But I really like this goaltending tandem, and I just like Cooley as a person. Like I like having that type of personality around the Flames. Like it's good for the fans. It's good for entertainment. It's good for the guys in the room.
Mm-hmm.
I really really like him. I also think the upside is there for him to be a very good goaltender, and we're already seeing it right now. I love the size, athleticism. I love the mindset from him. I'm such a big fan of his. So no, he's definitely not going to be on the block right now, but definitely prior to the contract extension, I think it was a totally real conversation. But now they signed him, I don't think it makes sense.
Yeah, even after they signed him, I still saw that online, and then I saw the Flames play Dustin Wolf 8 games in a row, and Wolf's capable of playing, but he's playing back-to-backs, and he's looking tired, and he's trying to carry the effort. And then you saw the team in front of him play really poor, and you're just like, this guy needs a break, but there's no one behind Devin Cooley. So for me, if you're trading Devin Cooley, who's your backup? Like
Owen Say, like
who's coming in here to help Dustin Wolf and things, and Wolf can handle the workload. That's not why I wouldn't trade Devin Cooley, but it's more of who's behind Devin Cooley. You got to remember Prosvetov is injured, and he was only okay at the AHL level. So you're going to be up the river without a paddle, or however that saying goes with trading Devin Cooley. Anyone else on this roster that we should mention in this trade conversation? Anyone that we're not thinking of? A contract that you want to just get rid of, type of thing, or anybody that really isn't getting the buzz that should be getting the buzz? Because I'm at the end here of my list.
I'm wondering if the buzz around Nazem Kadri is a little overhyped.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just because of the age of the player. He's 34 years old. He's going to be 35 next season. He's got 32 points in 45 games. He's a -16. He had about a 4-week stretch there in November and December where he was really good. Outside of that, he's been very quiet. I just wonder if teams are going to be hesitant to pay up the package that's going to be required to bring him in, just because of his age, his contract, and I mean, yeah, especially over the last few weeks here, like his plays really dropped off. Like I don't want to say
10 games.
Is that what it is? It's 1 point 10 games. Oh my god!
When I recorded last week's solo, it was 1.9 games, and he didn't get any points on Saturday.
Like that's ugly. And I just wonder if teams around the league are looking at that and going, like, do we really want to spend a first-round pick plus to bring in a guy who's got 3 years left on his deal, making $7 million a year, who's 35? I don't know if they want to do that. So I know there's been a lot of talk around Kadri and how the Flames could cash in on him. I think potentially that door is closed. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if they have to move Kadri, if they have to eat a bunch of salary, and if they're not going to get the trade package they desire. Because I don't like the way things are trending with him right now. But like on the roster, I mean, I'd say like everyone should be up for grabs outside of guys like Coronado, Huberdeau, and that's because no one's going to trade for him. It's but like
he should definitely be on the block. It's just not going to happen.
Exactly. Like you're probably not going to move a Connor Zary just because he's a younger guy. If you're a younger guy, you're not going to get moved. But almost like everyone in this roster should be available, in my opinion. But once again, we all know that that's not going to happen. So
I saw someone in a Columbus little group thing they were doing online who was talking about how Damian Severson would be a great addition to the Flames after Rasmus Andersson trade out. And I'm like, you know what? I know they're just trying to get content for their, Columbus Blue Jackets website that they run out there, but I'm like, that actually does sound like a Calgary Flames type of move. And it's like, I hope we don't get something like that. The Flames are actually proactive in what they're doing, and they make the pragmatic decisions and do something to move these guys. And I'm not saying you need to move out all 8 guys we've talked about on our list here, but be proactive. You move out Randerson, maybe move out Coleman and somebody else, and then in the summertime, visit the Nazem Kadri trade at the draft, because that's what it sounds like more of. Like, to me, that's more of a draft type of trade than an in-season trade because of his contract. maybe you move on from Joe Hanley in the offseason as well, or something like that. So make your decisions. Like this trade deadline, they don't have to do all the trades right now. You can have the offseason. You can have till next trade deadline with some of these guys that are signed beyond the season. But the point that Robert and I think we're both trying to make here is be proactive in your decision making here. Don't just hold on to guys because they're a veteran and you need a veteran leader. Don't just, okay, Anderson's been traded out because he was the one guy and we're good to go. And then don't double down with making another stupid move like bringing in, all due respect to Damian Severson. He's a great defenseman, a depth defenseman for a team who's a closer window to winning than the Flames are. Just do the right thing, right? Like I ranted to you on text yesterday about how long I've been a Flames fan and how old I am now. And they've never been proactive in their making their moves, making these decisions. Like, you have a contract beyond this year, fine. We're not trading you type of decisions. Like, they're forced into, we've talked about that before, Robert. They're forced into a lot of these trade conversations and trade moves. Like Hannafin was a forced trade. Lindholm was a forced trade. You go on and on and on about all these guys who were forced trades because they had to make that decision. Get ahead of it a little bit with these veterans and capitalize on the value of some of these guys. Blake Coleman has never played better. Even when he was winning cups in Tampa Bay, I don't think he was playing at a better level than he is right now. Hanley's playing really good, a really high level for what Joe Hanley is. Take advantage of that and make your team better in the process of doing so. And so it's not just about us getting on here and training everyone above 30. It's getting on here and saying, let's make these decisions for the betterment of the franchise, because they just really haven't in the past. And it's time that they change it a little bit here, because mushy middle sucks.
It's the worst place to be in hockey. And I don't know if they're in the mushy middle right now, because I do think they're going to finish in the bottom 5 of the league.
Me too. Again, I think they'll be forced down there.
Yeah.
Not by choice.
I still worry that they're not going to be patient with this rebuild, and that they're going to view this year as the step back, and then they're going to say, hey, next year we want to take another step forward and we want to try to get back in the mix next year. And that's what kind of worries me a little bit about this group.
Damian Severson, you are a Flame.
I pulled up his Puckpedia. He's got 5 years remaining on his deal that's paying him $6.25 million. Like, if the Flames do a move like that, I'm jumping off my balcony. I can't do it anymore. I can't take it. I can't handle this team anymore.
Yeah, and I like Damian Severson. Like, when he was in junior and playing in Kelowna, I believe it was, I enjoyed watching him play. Like, he was a good hockey player back then. He had some time with Team Canada, and he's been a fine defenseman in a couple of his stops. But it's like, those are the type of moves that Brad Treliving makes. Those are the type of moves that we saw Sutter make. Veteran guys who have been around a while that help this team win now. And the Flames need to realize how, like you mentioned, Robert, how far away they really are from contending. Because you watch that Flames-Penguins game, or the Flames-Boston game, the Flames-Montreal game, and then you'll watch the Avalanche play anybody, or San Jose take on Vegas on the weekend, and it's like a completely different sport. Like, and it's wild to watch how far away this Flame team actually is. And people, they'll get on Ryan Huska for the way he coaches and the way he uses players. But I'm like, he's forced to play like that because that's the only way this team will get results, i.e. the game against the Penguins. It's the only way this team can be successful. And it's not inducive to being a cup contender, let alone a playoff contender, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's just like Craig Conroy, he's got to go talk to Ryan Huska one of these days and say, enough is enough. We're willing to take a step back here. Like, it's probably after the Rasmus Anderson trade. Like, Huska, it's time to prioritize playing the young guys, and it's time to prioritize development. I think that's what needs to happen, because Huska, like any NHL coach, they're coaching for their lives. They're coaching to keep their job.
Yep.
And I think in Huska's mind, and honestly, I don't disagree with him, if he wants to win games and he wants to keep his status up around the league and his reputation up around the league, he has to coach the way he's coaching right now to try and get the most out of this talentless group in Calgary. And that's where Conroy's got to step in and be like, okay, like, I get what you're doing and I appreciate it, and you've juiced the orange as much as you possibly have, but now it's time to take a step back and prioritize development. That's up to Conroy and upper management to go to Huska and say, hey, we need you to change your philosophy and your strategy here a little bit, because he's not going to do it on his own.
Yeah, the Flames need to pivot. They need to pivot, and it needs to start at the top. So I'm fully agreeing there. Like people are gonna hate on Ryan Huska, and I get it because that style of hockey can be quite boring to watch, i.e., the game against the Nashville Predators or Seattle. But at the same time, it's like you got to make sure that you're making these decisions from above Huska, and relaying that message to him. Hey, it's time to play people that need to be played, i.e., the next guy we're going to talk about. It's time to maybe put Zyane Parekh in the lineup if he's healthy, and play Brustevich more, and continue to give Kuznetsov minutes, and continue to progress in giving Coronado bumped up minutes, and more for Zari. Bring up Gridden and play him. Actually use Stromgren more than 8 minutes in his debut. Things like that need to happen for the Flames. So let's add those questions. Let's have that conversation, Robert. What did the Flames do with their young players, specifically Zyane Parekh?
This whole situation's been a mess. And you know, when I came into this season, I kept telling myself, like, just try to be positive, be as positive as you can. It could be a long year. You know, just try to have fun with it. And, you know, like I said, just have a positive outlook on things. But as the season goes on, I just continue to just want to smash my head against a wall, because everything that is going wrong from a fan perspective is kind of happening a little bit. And one of those things is Zyane Parekh. I think the way they handled him in October and November up to his injury was totally wrong. I was going to say shameful, but it's not shameful. But I think they've gone about this approach just so wrong in so many different ways. And, you know, with him coming back to the team, for me, it's the ideal situation is for him to stay in the NHL. But he can't be in the NHL and be treated the way he was early in the season, because early in the year, he was in and out of the lineup. You know, there was no guarantee he was going to play one night or another. You know, so that was always up in the air. He barely played. He was put in very sheltered minutes. He barely got power play time, particularly power play one time. And it feels like they were just trying to change him as a player. Instead of taking advantage of his strengths, instead of trying to develop those and make him the best possible, like, offensive defenseman, which is what he is, it just feels like they're trying to turn him into a defensive shutdown guy. And I think that's so wrong. Like, sure, yes, you have to teach him the defensive side of the game, obviously, but they're not putting him in offensive positions to succeed, and that has to change. So, like, the big thing for me is they have to find him a consistent spot in the lineup where he's essentially playing every game. If you want to sit him once every 20 games, then sure, that's fine. But you got to find him a consistent spot in the lineup. You got to give him power play one time. And you got to give him a defined role, which is something they didn't do in his first stint here in Calgary. And then also the big thing for me is the coaching staff needs to show way more confidence in him, way more, because it felt like there was zero trust between Ryan Huska and Zyane Parekh, and that has to change. That Parekh cannot lose his confidence again. Like, to hear him, you know, say those comments at the World Juniors about how it's great for him to go to the juniors and find his confidence again, because he's been basically, you know, beaten down in Calgary this season. Like, that's horrible to hear from a guy that has such like a great confident personality. To hear that his confidence was shattered essentially by the Flames and this coaching staff is a joke. So they have to completely, you know, rethink how they're going to go about their business here. And if they don't do that, then just send him back to junior, because it's not healthy for him to be in an environment like this where he's not getting treated properly. He's not being put in positions to succeed. He's not being put on the power play. He's getting healthy scratched, all this kind of stuff. That can't happen. So if they're going to keep him in the NHL, be smart, you know, have a legitimate plan. Don't just go about it day by day, and trust him and play him. And that's how he's going to get better, not benching him once every 3 games and playing him 10 minutes a night and sheltering him and being terrified to throw him on the ice and put him on power play too. That just makes no sense for this season, this lost season for the Calgary Flames. So that's what I want to see happen. I really don't like the way they've handled him so far, and I really hope it changes. But knowing this organization, I don't really have any faith or trust in that they're going to do the right thing.
Zane has holes in his game, absolutely does. he needs to get stronger. He needs to make quicker decisions and maybe play with a little bit more intensity. You don't get any of those things solved by sitting in a press box for 9 of 10 games. Or watching from the sidelines. You get those type of things from playing and getting reps and learning on the fly. And I think the best teacher for those things is playing in live games. So the Flames need to play this kid. And yes, he does need to get stronger and make those decisions quicker and all those things, right? So that's what you've got your veteran presence for, Calgary, your winning culture, as Don Maloney would like to put it. That's why you would put this kid in the lineup, because you claim you have those things in your locker room. You have the ability to teach him how to be an NHLer. You've seen it with Kuznetsov and Brustevich when they just let the kids play. They're actually not bad. Kuznetsov had a very, very mediocre first couple of games, but he's gotten a lot better, and he's now earned a full-time NHL role from it. Brustevich, who I think should be playing, stop scratching him for some reason, has shown that he belongs. Yes, the points will come eventually, I'm sure. They haven't to this point. And I think it's the same for Parekh. Play the guy, right? So maybe you start off by sending him to the American Hockey League after a few scratches to get that conditioning stint, to give him some games down there to get comfortable. Fine, I get that. He's coming off an injury from the World Junior Championships. But then when he's back with the NHL club, play him. What have you got to lose? What have you got to lose by playing Zyane Parekh? What have you got to lose by putting this kid in situations to help him learn the game? The only thing you have to lose is games. Well, you're losing games anyways. You're sitting 29th in the National Hockey League, right? You're sitting in a top 5 draft pick. So losses aren't the ideal thing, and every coach wants to win. But at the same time, that's where you are in your cycle as a team. So it doesn't hurt you to put Zyane Parekh in the lineup and have this kid learn more. The only thing that could hurt is Zyane Parekh could get injured again if he's not careful and doesn't learn those lessons. But he needs to learn those lessons, and you do that by playing games. And if you're not going to do that, like Robert said, send him back to the Ontario Hockey League. Go back and listen to 2 episodes ago. I found him a home in the Ontario Hockey League. So there are things. Let him play down there. Let him get minutes down there, because he needs to play. And the Flames should do the right thing and just play him in Calgary. We raved about Joe Hanley earlier in this episode about how he could be a valuable trade chip. We'll put him with Zyane Parekh and let the guys play, because he's been a good partner for Brustevich, and let these guys learn and grow on the job. I don't understand the other kinds of thinking that are out there.
I mean, ideally, you'd see a Rasmus Anderson trade, and then Parekh comes into the lineup and plays Kevin Ball.
Yep, love that.
I think that would be the perfect place for him to play. And they played together during Game 82 last season, and looked like there was some connection. And just with the play styles, I think they mesh really well together. So I'd love to see that happen, but I'm not holding my breath on that. I could totally see Ryan Huska putting Braden Pahal with Kevin Ball and saying this is a shutdown pair for us. I really hope that doesn't happen. I'd love to see Brustevich and Parekh in the lineup for the rest of the season once Anderson's traded, but once again, I'm not holding my breath for anything like that. I'm really not. Excuse me. I'm once again, I'm trying to be positive, but man, I don't know if I've ever been more down on this organization. Like we were kind of texting about that yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
You had a great rant. Like I'd love to hear your kind of thoughts on that. Like where are you at in terms of just, you've been a fan of this team your whole life. Where are you at in terms of confidence level in the present and the future of this team?
I don't think I have a confidence level, to be honest, right now, because you're seeing them do the same thing over and over again. My biggest thing with the Flames, like Robert's going to get me fired up here. My biggest thing with the Flames in the history of watching this team, I'm turning 42 in a couple of months. So I've been a fan as long as I can remember. You can blame my grandpa for that, like 4th generation, Flame, 3rd, whatever it is. So I love this team. I grew up watching this team. I grew up on the Young Guns, watching Valpurre and a young Theron Fleury. I remember the Joe Newendike trade, the Gary Roberts trade. I was gutted when Maverna was moved to the Red Wings. I've been through it. I've seen it. I enjoyed some playoff runs that were very small. I enjoyed 04 like everyone else has. And the one thing that this Flames team continually does is they love to chase things. never actually put a stake in the ground, never actually build a foundation, but they love to chase things. You see that with the Tony Amonte signing, the Darren McCarty signing, the Todd Bertuzzi signing, veteran guys who had success elsewhere that they hope can just capitalize on one good year. How many years after 04 were the Flames a good team because Kiprusoff was masking what's up front? We saw that again when Jacob Markstrom was around for a while. We've seen that over and over and over. This Flames team loves 2015. After that surprise playoff appearance, what did they do with Bob Hartley? They doubled down on things. And so I see that again here with the Flames, and they're talking about this core and the winning culture, and we have 7 veterans, and we can't play fantasy hockey. We have to be we have to be more realistic than that. It sucks when you see other teams say, nope, this isn't it. Let's rebuild. You saw Montreal, and I used that example in the solo episode I did last week, Robert, of Montreal. They just stopped, and they did a hard pivot. They rebuilt it, and now look at this team. Playoffs last year, very much likely going to make the playoffs this year. They're trending towards the top of that division. They're a fun, exciting hockey team to watch because they put a stake in the ground and actually built a foundation around Suzuki, around Slavkovsky. They have Hudson. Now they've added Demidov into the mix. They're getting goaltending from that Fowler kid who looks to be a remarkable talent. We've seen the same thing from Chicago and San Jose. They put a stake in the ground after some success. Okay, we got to pivot. They pivot. Now they have guys like Bedard and Nazar or Celebrini, Will Smith. They're getting the goaltending from guys like Spencer Knight. Teams have put their stake in the ground and have rebuilt or pivoted their direction. The Flames don't want to do that because they're scared that they're going to be the one-off like the Buffalo Sabres. Well, okay, I get that you don't want to become the Buffalo Sabres, then don't be incompetent. And that's what the Flames are. They're just incompetent with veteran players in the lineup that aren't going to allow you to be an awful hockey team until this season. So when you talk about the Flames and you talk about confidence level in this group, I don't have any because I kind of already think I know what's coming along here. So I don't need to have confidence in what this team's going to do because I can kind of already predict the future. That Damian Severson joke that we were making earlier, that is a peak Flames move. Hey, we'll trade out Rasmus Sanderson because we can't get a contract. But let's bring in the guy who's already making too much money and under contract. He'll help us get over the edge. And I just can't see that again. And so we have 37 games left. The confidence level is low that they'll finish in that bottom 5 unless it naturally happens because they're off that much. But they're going to keep gunning for it. And that's until I'm shown otherwise, that's going to be my mindset. This team wants to be a wild card team. They want to be in the playoffs. They want to be up there in the standings. And so we talk about trades, we talk about moves, and I'm like, okay, all of that's great from a fan perspective. Makes for great radio, makes for great podcasting, great online presence, great conversations around the water cooler. But to actually know what the Flames are going to do, I don't see it. And that, to me, is the worst part, is you're just watching this team go down the same path again. And I'm happy. I'll be happy to be shown that I'm wrong. But until I see it, Robert, I don't have any confidence.
Yeah, me too. And I mean, who knows? Maybe over the next 6 months here, the Flames' actions show that they are truly going to rebuild and bottom out a little bit. And Coleman and Kadri are both going to be traded and all that kind of stuff. I'm not really holding my breath out for any of that to happen. The big thing for me is just like the organizational philosophy of get in and anything can happen is just killing them. And thinking that a retool is going to get them to being back to being competitive, it's going to kill them. If they don't have a true long-term approach, which they might have, but they just haven't communicated it with the fan base, they're screwed. And here's the one thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is, so I mentioned earlier in the episode, I think this team is just incredibly far away from being a contender. And the reason why I think that is because who are the drivers on this team right now? Like, who is keeping this team, quote unquote competitive? Like, keeping them within a few points of a playoff spot right now. It's a 35-year-old Nazem Kadri, a 33-year-old Blake Coleman. It's Rasmus Anderson, who's going to be 30. It's Uyghur. It's, Huberdeau to a certain extent. Really, like, the young players on this team, Matt Coronado is looking like he's going to be probably a second line winger. I wouldn't really consider him a major driver of the Calgary Flames right now. I think he could be in the future, but Kevin Ball, he kind of feels like he maxes out as a second pair guy, like a number 4. He's not necessarily a driver of the team. I think he's a solid contributor, but not necessarily a driver.
Mm-hmm.
So then I asked myself, okay, so in 2 or 3 years, when all these guys are either moved out or they're getting well into their 30s and continue to decline, who's gonna be driving the bus on this team? Because with the Flames organization right now, it's basically you have your drivers who are your older guys, but from age 30 to age 20, there's not a whole lot there. Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee are not drivers. Yegor Sharangovich absolutely is not a driver. That's one side note. I don't understand why people keep complimenting this guy. Every time I listen to a broadcast or the radio, I keep hearing, oh, Yegor Sharangovich, he's really improved his game lately and his battle level has increased and all this kind of stuff. I'm not seeing that whatsoever. I don't get that at all. I think people are lying to the fans when they say that this guy's playing way better hockey, because I know he's not. Anyway, he's not a driver. And then you have a bunch of young kids. You have 18 to 20-year-olds that you've kind of stacked your prospect system with over the last 2 years. But it's going to take literally like 5 or 6 years for them to become very good NHLers. It takes time. Like, it takes these guys to get to 24 to 26 years old before they really start to flourish, like these non-elite guys, which, outside of Parekh, I don't think there isn't a truly elite talent in the Flames prospect system. So because of all that, you combine all that stuff together, I think this team is, like, people are talking about, oh, maybe they can open their contention window when the new building opens in 2027. I'm like, I think that's insane. I think they're 5-6 years away from at least being a legit playoff team. So that's one of the reasons why I'm so down. And if they double down on this retail crap, then they're screwed. They're done for the next 10 years. Like, they're gonna probably make the playoffs 2 or 3 times. They'll lose in the first round every single time. But if they actually commit to a rebuild and they do bottom out for 2 or 3 years and they do acquire the high-end elite talent that you need to boost your team to the next level, then I think the future is very bright.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have the goalie, they got Parekh, they got Reshny and Gridden and a bunch of other lottery tickets, which is great. But you need to fill those gaps with elite talent. And if they consider this is the down year and they want to make the playoffs again next year and they go out and make stupid moves this offseason, then they're screwed. They're screwed for the next 10, 15 years, and they're never going to win anything. But if they do really focus and commit to a rebuild, I actually think the future is very bright. So I'm really curious to see over the next 18 months here what ends up happening with this team, and that'll kind of show what direction they're going to go in. If they commit to this bullshit retool, they're screwed. And if you're a fan, I'd be so pissed off if they commit to that. And I think that the organization's in trouble if they commit to that, because I think the fan base is at an all-time high in terms of being pissed off with the direction of this team. Or if they truly bottom out and they trade a bunch of veterans and they continue to draft well, then I think the future is very bright. So it's like that meme where you have a path that's going left and it's like this amazing green, beautiful area, and you're going to go for a beautiful walk, and then there's the right path that's like dark and dingy and all that kind of stuff, and it almost looks like you're headed towards hell. That's the way I see the Calgary Flames right now. There's 2 obvious directions. It's either heaven or it's hell. And based off of their actions in the past, it feels like they're going to go down the hell route. But if they do commit to that rebuild and they go down to the heaven route, I think fans should be very excited about the future of this team. But once again, I just have little to no confidence in this owner, and absolutely no confidence in Don Maloney right now.
That's fantasy hockey, Robert. Come on.
That is fantasy hockey.
And I wish they would play it. I really do. And they don't. Here's my thing with it as well. Montreal picked first overall once. The other picks in that draft, they acquired Suzuki, which was a high draft pick, and they drafted a couple of the guys in the top 10. So it's not like that we're asking this team to be the last place team in the league for 3 seasons and win 3 lotteries and do the Edmonton Oilers thing. We're asking this team be realistic where you are. Just be forward thinking a little bit where you are, what you're actually doing. This team is a Dustin Wolf injury, heaven forbid, from not winning another hockey game this year because they're that bad. Like they're so close to just falling off the cliff, but they love being cliffside so much that they just don't see the dangers right in front of them. And Robert laid it out beautifully there of all the things that are right in front of the Flames here. And that dark path you're talking about, Robert, that's leading straight to the Saddle Dome. Like, I honestly believe that because, to your point, that's all we've seen them do. That's all we've seen them do. They have never done a rebuild. Even when they were forced into things a while ago, they didn't even bottom out because they wanted to. They were just that bad of a hockey team that they ended up getting the 4th overall pick and screwing up Sam Bennett. And they were able to get the number 6 pick with Matthew Tkachuk. They fell backwards into that kind of stuff. This needs to be a conscious decision. I'm not team tank. I'm team proactive. And when you're proactive, you're going to move out those veterans that don't fit what you're looking for. All due respect to what Kadri has been and Huberto's been and Coleman's been. They don't fit. They don't fit the long-term view of this franchise. And if they do in the eyes of Don Maloney and the owner, well, then I guess we are going to live in fantasy hockey and we're never going to see the Flames be a competitive, successful franchise. And that's a hard pill to swallow as a Flames fan, whether you've been a fan for a couple of seasons or for 40 years like I have been. It's just how it is. And it's not a fun thing to think about for sure.
Yeah, and I continue to worry about just this idea that, like we gotta like respect this group in the room and we gotta give them a chance. That's what we heard last year at the trade deadline is, hey, we're in the mix for a playoff spot. If you were to take a Nazem Kadri or Blake Coleman or Rasmus Anderson out of this group, like how could you do that to them? They've worked so hard to this point to get to this stage of the standings. Like you can't do that to this team. And I'm like, that's just the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. If you take a look at the roster right now,
that's a media speak. That's what that is.
Oh, don't even get me started on that. I heard something a couple weeks ago that I wanted to put a bullet in my head through listening to it. But like you take a look at this roster right now, who's going to be here in 3 or 4 years when you hope they turn into like a fun young team that eventually does become a contender?
Huberto.
And that's not by choice. You're stuck with him. But everybody else, like all the people that we've been talking about, Frost, Farabee, Coleman, Anderson, Backlund, Kadri, Pahal, Hanley, like all those guys who should be on the trade block, like they're not going to be here. So like, why are you so concerned about taking people off the roster and being so, concerned about hurting the guys' feelings and, hey, they've worked so hard to this point. Like we have to reward them or we have to keep them together.
It's like it's kindergarten.
Oh, it is kindergarten. Like it's just so immature. It's just so stupid. This is a business, and this is a business about winning and putting an entertaining product on the ice and trying to compete for Stanley Cups. And this group, obviously, to everybody on planet Earth, except the people at the Saddle Dome, is not even close to being good enough. So why are you so concerned about keeping this team together and keeping the culture intact and all this kind of stuff? Like, it's just such horseshit. It's so frustrating being a fan, someone who covers the team, a supporter, whatever you want to call yourself. It's so frustrating to be a fan of this team sometimes. And if they just did the right thing and were smart and forward thinking and proactive and all this kind of stuff, Flames fans, I think, would be very happy right now, even if they aren't, in a playoff mix. Like fans understand. Fans are smart enough to understand that, teams need to bottom out. We need to acquire elite talent at the top of the draft in a 32 team league, which is about to become probably 34 or 36, with a hard salary cap. Like it's so difficult to win. And if you don't go about it the right way and you try to take shortcuts, you're never going to win. Because the league is too good, it's too competitive. The salary cap makes things too difficult for you to build a contender in a short period of time. Unfortunately, it takes time. Like it took Florida 5 or 6 years for them to become a contender. It took Colorado a long time. It took LA a long time. It took Chicago a really long time. like you have to be patient. You have to go about the right way, because if you don't and you try to shortcut things, you're never going to win, especially in a small market, a small Canadian market. You're not Vegas, you're not Dallas, you're not Florida, you're not Nashville, you're not like a tax-free state with with great weather and all these sort of benefits away from the rink. Like, you have to be very smart about how you go about things, and if you just continue to do shortcuts and say, oh, just a quick retool on the fly and we're going to be fine in 2 years, you're insane, and you're not going to go anywhere, and it's just going to be another 30 years of never getting past the second round, never getting past game 5 of the second round, let alone the second round. Like, it's going to be another 20, 30 years of that. So it's frustrating. It just seems so obvious to everybody in the world that this team needs to bottom out and like do like a big time teardown. But Don Maloney and Murray Edwards, they don't think that's necessary. They're smarter than everybody. They can turn this around quicker than anybody else can. And, all the power to them, but I just have this feeling it's not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. We could keep ranting about it, Robert, because we're both at the same spot here. We're both thinking very similar, and it's just like it's very obvious. So all of that being said, excuse me, with 37 games left to play, you put that out on Twitter, and got some good reaction to it. What are we seeing over these last 37 games, according to what we've seen, what we've heard, and what you think here, Robert?
Well, I know I had 59 comments on that tweet, which is awesome. So I really appreciate everybody commenting and giving their thoughts and feelings on the Flames. A lot of the sentiment, it has been, the only reason I'm tuning in is to see what they get in trade returns, and I'm only watching for the young players. Outside of that, there's nothing that's exciting me, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. I'm right with everybody who has those thoughts and opinions on the Calgary Flames right now, because I'm right there. I mean, we got, like you said, 37 games to go. Like, oh my God. Like, with my job at Nation Network, I mainly cover the Flames and Canucks, and those are probably the two most dysfunctional, directionless franchises in the NHL who play the most boring style of hockey. So I chose the wrong time to cover hockey as my job. Yeah, like I agree with everything there. Like, I'm looking forward to seeing, what they can get in a Rasmus Andersson trade. I'm looking forward to seeing if they decide to move anybody else out. I'm looking forward to watching Zyane Parekh if they actually give him a role and give him an opportunity. Seeing how Hunter Brzustewicz can continue to grow, and Kuznetsov, and hopefully they'll give Rory Cairns a longer look and Stromgren a longer look, and maybe we'll see Gridden back up at some points, and maybe Sam Morton. Like those, I'm really grasping for straws here though. Like those are literally the only things that excite me, because the veterans on this team, they don't do it for me. Yes, Michael Backlund and Blake Coleman are having fantastic years, but watching Jonathan Huberdeau makes me want to slam forks in my eyes. I can't stand watching him right now. Kadri is like we said, he's really taken a step back here.
I'm sorry, he's been awful.
And I never like to question somebody's compete level or work ethic, because who the hell am I? Some overweight douchebag sitting in his apartment talking about these guys. These guys are professional athletes and they have incredible work ethics. So like, I never like doing that. But there are times over the last 3 weeks here where I'm like, man, like it just doesn't look like his give a shit meter is there.
It's like he's asked for a trade and just is waiting for it. That's what it looks like. Like he's asked out and he just doesn't care. Totally. And I hate saying that too, because he does care. He has professional pride. He just hasn't been playing good.
100%. And like Mackenzie Weegar's having an awful year. Like, it's been hard watching him this year. And, Frost and Farabee have been wildly inconsistent. Sharon Govich is a mess. Like, there's just so many elements of this team where it's like, oh my God, this is so hard to watch. So it's 37 games left. It's all about the young players and trades. That's really what it comes down to right now. I'm going to be curious to see what some of these crowds look like at the Dome over the next couple months here. Like, if they can insert a lot of youth into the lineup, I think fans will be more excited to go to the Dome. But if they keep, the majority of this group together and they only move Rasmus Andersson, I could see there being some ugly crowds down the stretch at the Dome.
Yeah, I agree with that as well, especially after the Olympics, right? As we head towards that trade deadline. That post on Twitter, Robert, really summed up our thoughts on this podcast quite nicely. Like a lot of fans think the same way we're thinking. It's just they just want something to cheer for, right? They want something to latch their fanship to, and they want to watch some exciting hockey. People weren't mentioning Stanley Cups. People were mentioning we need to win like 4 Stanley Cups soon. They're talking about just watching something competitive, something fun, right? And that's, I think, like a very low bar for this management group, the ownership group to match what their fans are asking for. And it's not just a small minority. I don't see very many people out there saying, no, this is a playoff team still. I don't see it. I don't see it out there. I've seen like maybe one a month type of thing. You don't see guys clamoring this is still a playoff team. People are afraid of the mushy middle. They don't want to be. They want to have a chance at McKenna or a Steinberg or Verhoff or whoever else they want in that draft. And it's a very low bar that the fans are asking the management and ownership for. We'll see if they can do it. Anything else, Robert, you want to bring up here on the podcast this week? If not, what's coming up from you on Flames Nation?
Yeah, I mean, just the last thing like I'll add is even just like the people I interact with online or like the people I know who are big Flames fans in my life, a lot of them have essentially tuned this team out. And like these are diehards. These are people who watch 60 plus games a year kind of thing and follow the team and listen to podcasts and read articles. Even they're jumping off the ship right now. They're like, I have zero interest in what's going on right now. And that, once again, that should scare the crap out of the higher ups at the Saddle Dome. It really should, because apathy is absolutely kicking in with this fan base, and it sucks to see because like both you and I, like we've been fans of this team our whole life. We've had so many great memories of watching games and going to the Dome and just having, lots of exciting moments. And, you want to see this team succeed so bad, but it's just, they're not even close right now. And, yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. Like I said, their actions over the next, let's call it 18 months between now and the 2027 free agency, will kind of tell everything about the direction of this team. So, hopefully their actions show us that, yes, we're committed to building and we're committed to the long-term future of this team. And hopefully it happens. I'm cheering for them. I want them to succeed. I want them to put together a great team and a great organization and actually watch some fun hockey and be entertained and have star players here. Open Scotia Place with a bang with a bunch of young guys in the lineup. Like that should all really excite Flames fans. It's just the question is, are we going to get there? And we'll find out over the next 18 months here. Let's see what their actions do. I know both you and I are very skeptical at the moment, but let's see if they can maybe prove the fan base wrong here. That would be such a breath of fresh air and very welcomed. And we'll see if it happens or not.
A 72 red jersey would go hard.
Ooh, would it ever?
I'm just saying. That's Ring of Fire CGY across social media. I'm Vintage Johnny 84. And of course, the show is Red Mile Rundown. Thanks so much for making us a part of your podcast rotation, and try to enjoy the end of the road trip for the Flames. They've got a couple of interesting games against Columbus and Chicago coming, and we'll talk all about that next week on the podcast. Appreciate you. Enjoy the hockey, and we'll see you here next week. And out.
That was you know what? That was a good little therapy session.
That was. I got a bigger rant out than I thought I was gonna get. Just every time I said something else popped into my brain. Like I was like,